Welcome to the Football Show. I'm Peter Martin, Tam McManus and Charlie Adam here with me. We're ready to respond to all your comments on the burning issues in Scottish football. It's Wednesday, the 23rd of September. You can like, share and follow us on our Facebook page, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So lots to discuss. Do we need the government to intervene to save some Scottish clubs from folding, with the coronavirus obviously still not allowing anyone to bring fans into the ground? Are we possibly going to lose a generation of youngsters to football with the inability to play it? Grassroots football is suffering. Are the SFA out of order with the notice of complaint to the Rangers manager Steven Gerrard? And how many clubs do you believe will be in the hat on Friday morning in the Europa League? We've been discussing it last night. Give us your thoughts on it as well. Tam and Charlie will offer us their thoughts too. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thank you to everyone who's been sharing and following. There's a chance to win yourself some great goodies. We've been sending out T-shirts aplenty, and there are other great prizes that we'll be informing you of over the next couple of weeks. So Tam and Charlie are there. I'm just looking at it. We've been responding to lots of your messages on YouTube, and one of the things I would say to everyone with regards to your messages last night, we got a hell of a lot of abuse and a hell of a lot of comments regarding the First Minister and, of course, our stance on you have to follow government rules and guidelines with regards to the coronavirus, washing your hands, and, of course, keeping your social distancing. There are a few people out there who clearly indulge in conspiracy theories, and some of the points last night on YouTube beggar belief. But we will continue to follow government laws, rules, and all the guidelines with regards to coronavirus, because it does have an impact on football and it relates to our story. Tam's just about to break into a smile. The reason I mention that, Tam, is we had quite a few people who clearly came from Roswell in a spaceship and were not the full shilling. Simple as that. Anyway, on that note, Charlie, Adam, do you think we are in a situation where, like so many managers have been commenting, clubs will fold if in 3 weeks' time, when Nicola Sturgeon reviews the situation, if we don't get fans in, some clubs in the lower leagues could not exist into the new year?
This next 3 weeks, Peter, is massive. Scottish football could go, not saying gone under, but clubs can go under. This is a big decision on what happens in the next 3 weeks. We have to try and find the solution, or the government have to come and back these clubs and help the clubs, because if they don't, our game could be in a bad way in 3 to 5 weeks' time, and it'll be sad to see, because we've got a lot of history with these clubs. The part-times, even full-time clubs will struggle. So I am worried as a player on what's going to happen, because there doesn't seem to be any confidence in what's going to actually happen.
What would you like to see the government do, Charlie?
Well, I think the government need to stand up now. If we want football out there and people playing, the government need to stand up and help fund testing or do something. We ain't going to go back into lockdown, because it'll cause the country chaos with finances. We don't have the finances. So we need to try and find a solution. James Anderson stepped up with £50,000 to each club not so long ago. What have the clubs done with this money? I think if that £50,000 was coming to help the testing, to get the game up and running, it's like I say, it's a big decision. And even if you look at the clubs in, like they say, the Lowland League and the Highland League, what happens if they decide that they don't want to play next season because they can't finish the season? Will that implement on the League 2 and League 1 clubs? Yes, it will. And the game is in a bad way if that happens. And Ian Maxwell's got a big job on his hands.
Somewhere along the line, as Charlie paints a bleak picture, and we're well aware of what that picture is, Tam, somewhere along the line, you can't look towards a philanthropist every now and then to bail everybody out, whether it's paying for testing or whether it's actually some kind of funding. It's not going to be, a furlough scheme. It's got to be something, an injection of cash to keep some of these clubs going. Should we be looking inward within clubs that are wealthy to try and provide the collective on this. The reason I mention that, Tam, is because we have a situation where, for example, Tottenham Hotspur helped out Leyton Orient when they obviously said, we'll pay for your testing because there's a cup match coming up, we'll play against you. We would have paid for that. Roy McGregor today has said that he will pay for testing for Elgin City when they play them in the cup. Do we need a collective responsibility to try and get us through this?
Yep, we do, Peter. It was a great gesture from Roy McGregor. I think he's very close to his roots in terms of low league football and youth football, and it's a great gesture to help the likes of Elgin. I think Arbroath's in that group as well, in different clubs. So I would like to see the likes of Celtic and Rangers, in their groups or sort of their through Hibs, Hearts, teams like that, bigger clubs with bigger budgets, trying to help lower league clubs in terms of testing, because everybody's in it together. Every club's struggling, from top to bottom, but particularly the lower league clubs who need fans in the door to survive. They need people in the gate. Even the clubs that are getting 300 and 400 at a game, your East Fives and clubs like that, and Athletic, they need that 300, 400, 500 people in, to sustain them and pay their wages. So it's a really, really tough situation for every club. I agree with Charlie. Clubs could go bust. The government need to give the clubs some sort of money, and even if it's a grant, a payment, something, to keep them going over the next month or two to get the season up and running. Because if we don't get this season up and running, and there's no season in the lower league, League One, League Two, lower leagues, and we don't get a season going, I just don't think any clubs will survive. I really don't.
Yeah, George Donaldson is saying, how can you get people in pubs, but you can't get them in stadia up and down the country? It's a good point you make, George. We can't argue with you on it. It's something that a number of managers have highlighted over the piece. And with that in mind, I'm just looking at Celtic preparing for their game against Riga, and quite simply, we've got Roughie with us now. Well, there you are. You never like to preempt him on the programme. Sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not, but he's with us now. I might as well ask you, Roughie, what did you do this week that suddenly you haven't been doing the last 52 weeks?
Exactly. It looks as if it's the internet. I've seen everybody having trouble with it and laughing my head off, but I'm certainly not laughing my head off now. I'm pulling my hair out. Pressing all these blinking buttons, man, it's an absolute shocker.
Yeah,
with technology, no, it's not me.
The only way that we're going to save you, Roughie, on this programme is, as Charlie mentions there, once we get to a situation where we can all get back together in a studio and Charlie really gets a real flavour of what you're all about, Roughie. That's the way ahead for us, to be honest with you. Or indeed, we try and get as many of the backup producers that Charlie has when he visits the BBC from time to time, Roughie. but we like to give Charlie a kind of an insight into those who have a lot with the taxpayers' money and those who have close to nothing in this organisation.
Peter, I said to you before, I'm excited to get into that studio with you. I've told you that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
We cannot wait. And listen, we're excited to get out for a staff party with everybody again. It'll be a long while. Talking of this whole topic of how to save clubs, Neil Lennon was speaking today ahead of that game against Riga of Latvia, and he mentioned that something has to be done to try and help all the clubs.
We should endeavour to try and push on with it if we can, even though restrictions are being taken. I know it sounds a bit contradictory, but where would you rather watch a football game, or where is it safer, in an open air venue or in a restaurant or a bar indoors? I think the open air venues are far safer, and it's got to try and find some sort of smart solutions to this. There has to be, it can't just be closed door and that's it. There's got to be some sort of middle ground or some sort of compromise we can find to make things better for not just football but for all sports, really, because the infrastructure of some of these sports could collapse.
Well, that is from the Celtic manager, Roughie. We have been discussing since the start of the show some kind of compromise. A compromise. We thought we were heading in the right direction with 700, possibly 1,000 fans. But I don't know what the compromise is, Roughie, on this one. What do you, we're getting a situation now where we're being told, don't visit any other houses. 6 maximum outside. So I don't know where the compromise is, Roughie.
I don't know either, Peter, and I'm getting as confused about it as everybody else. You know, that people have been allowed into pubs to 10 o'clock at night. I don't know what the volume that would be, but certainly compared to letting 200 people into a ground and really strict discipline in how you get to that ground, I don't see how one can go one way and one can go the other way. And I agree. I heard you talking about the government there. I don't know where the government put the priority of football. You know, obviously we've got the NHS to look after, and there'll be other authorities as well saying, hey, we come before you. I know you're a service to the community, but it's a difficult one for the government, you know. And then the other thing that I know Neil Lennon's talking about, you know, the financial side of it and everything, and certain clubs, excuse me, are more financially better off than others. I think if you look at the Premier, the SPFL, every club has been spending money. Everybody has been buying players and putting players on contracts and everything. You know, so I don't see why they should be complaining as much as the clubs do further down the line, who obviously aren't spending as much money. So for me, it's split down the middle. You know, I don't know if there is a compromise. I heard a chairman at one of the clubs lower down, so maybe we just freeze it for a year. No, that might be a solution. You just ask everybody, can you compete in this league? Can you afford, without putting your club down the tubes, to carry on? Or do you just back off and bite the bullet and come back whenever it's okay? I think we're at that situation. If these clubs are saying that it's so bad they might shut down, maybe we have to look at that and just go with the clubs who can compete at whatever level.
And of course, lots of people talking about this on YouTube and Facebook. We'll try and get through as many of these points as possible. You can't let 200 people into a venue. Some pubs, businesses, in fact, most of the people are talking about it here is quite simply, you know, that all businesses, not just sport, is suffering here, but quite simply, we deal with what we are working in, Tam, and we're trying to work out whether somebody can take a lead on this and offer a solution to it before the whole thing collapses at the lower level, and then it starts to get through. And this is not an isolated incident, Tam. This is people down south saying the Premier League in England's losing £100 million a month. You know, they are looking and saying, we can't be pushed back. I mean, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is talking about 6 months. Nicola Sturgeon is talking about a 3-week review.
Yeah, I mean, the English clubs down south, I mean, the Premiership clubs, look at how much money they've got, and they are hemorrhaging money. You know, 100 million a month, as you said, between the clubs. So they'll be needing fans back in as well. But according to, I watched a couple of things, Boris Johnson and the government down there seem to be, are going to help the English clubs, are going to help football. You know, they're going to put some money in. They're going to try and fund the deficit in terms of the money they're losing. So we've got to do the same up here, Peter, in Scotland. You know, Scottish football's a massive thing in Scotland. You know, a massive thing for communities. You know, it's huge. Mental health issues as well. You know, you're going to games. People like to go to games. Get out and about on a Saturday. You know, they're missing that as well. And I just think we need to, it's a national sport here, and we have to have that way up the list of priorities. I understand what Roughie's saying about the NHS and maybe cancer treatments and stuff like that. Obviously, that is all priority, but in terms of sport and mental health, then football has certainly got to be the number one sport and the number one, you know, push that right up the table.
Tam, don't you think, I'm talking about England now, I'm not talking about Scotland, you think a lot of people will be trying to get their head round, you're going to the government and ask them for a handout and you're getting players £300,000 a week?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a joke.
It's just not the scene. It's just obscene. You know, the way that particularly England are acting just now.
Yeah, but the point here, up here, there's only a number of clubs, a small number, Charlie, that are able to actually buy players. Celtic, Rangers, you know, Hibs, Hearts. You know, maybe a couple more that I could throw in there. Aberdeen, they might be able to use a few 100,000 from the Scott McKenna deal, but not many clubs are going to be able to buy anyone. You know, the way this is going.
Oh, listen, we could all say that players are earning 300 grand a week. That's easy to say, but you know, are we going to crucify everybody that's on 3 grand a week, which is more than the average wage in Scotland? Or people that are earning 5 grand a week, or the lads that are at Celtic Rangers are earning more money. I just think we've just got to come to a solution where we can get fans in. We can do it. If it's a percentage of the stadium or whatever, like you said before, I cannot believe that we're allowed to go to a pub and watch a game and we're not allowed to go to a stadium. There's a better access in, there's better access out away, a one-way system to get in and out of the stadium. But we can actually go into, that is not allowed, but we can go into a pub and sit and have 6 or 7 beers and watch a game and then leave at 10 o'clock and that's it. Somebody has to take control of it. And Nicola Sturgeon, she's done a good job, better than what Boris Johnson's done in England, but there has got to be some sort of compromise. Like Tam said, the mental health of some people, we're going to lose younger players through to this, losing the love of the game and things like that. This is going to be massive in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks.
Yeah, David Nielsen makes a good point. He said, can you imagine what it's going to be like in a pub on Old Firm Day? Because, fans might be in those pubs. Will they be adhering to all the rules? Big questions.
There was social distancing anyway. They'd sell it Rangers fans.
Yeah, and until either half scores, and then they'll be socially distanced on the top on the top of each other's heads, to be perfectly honest with you. But this is all the dilemmas, and Charlie touched on something there, Roughie, which I think is interesting. The SFA have launched this grassroots football support fund. Now, this fund is basically off the back of the 50,000 which has been put into the kitty from the Scottish Partnership Trust. Now, this Scottish Football Partnership Trust, as you know, Roughie, has had a £50,000 injection from James Alexander. Now, what they're saying is, they're asking fans...
Anderson.
James Anderson, I beg your pardon. So James Anderson puts 50,000 in. They want fans to put money in now, which even I think, Roughie, is going to be difficult for some fans to do. And they're maybe suggesting to the Tartan Army, look, that playoff against Israel, you bought your ticket, but we'll give you a refund, but if you want, you can donate the refund to the grassroots football. It's innovative, but I'm not too sure people have got a lot of spare cash.
No, I mean, we saw all the supporters of local clubs helping their team out, by making donations. You'd have to ask the Tartan Army that one. A lot of the Tartan Army don't have clubs that they support, so in theory Scotland is their club, and it will be interesting to see, if they do. I'm sure a lot of them will, because a lot of them love following the country. For me, Peter, we're falling into the circumstances now. The SPFL are as quiet as ever now. We spoke about leadership earlier on with Neil Doncaster and everybody, and they were all right coming out and dictating all the voting and all that. They've went really quiet now. Nobody's saying anything. They're the people that should be coming out making statements to these clubs that are struggling. They're the ones that should be out saying, right, we've got a kitty here, we're going to help you out. But they're not. They're so quiet, it's unreal. They've just, what did they find Celtic and Aberdeen there? 30,000 each. Why don't they put that 60,000 into grassroots football? Why does somebody not come out with something like that? Why does somebody not come out and say, hey, there's some money, we'll do it? I think the SPFL are now in a huff because they asked all the clubs to sign everything over to the SPFL so that they could vote on what's happening if we get another pandemic, and now they're not taking any shout and they're letting some of the clubs sink here. I think Neil Doncaster needs to come out and do something.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, and again, I have to just intervene on this basis. Neil Doncaster is a figurehead for the clubs. Yeah. He is merely the voice and representative of the clubs. He can advise as a chief executive, but the clubs make the decisions. Tam, we only have to look back over the last 6 months. We were well aware that in the first part of this lockdown that there was the real threat come winter of a second wave. So whether they give the SPFL board the power or not, it's the clubs. And there are no lessons learned, Tam, because you mentioned there about everybody chipping in and maybe Hearts helping out and somebody else helping. Nobody will help. Nobody will help out. They don't all have the values and family values of a Roy McGregor. Half these clubs have been battering each other with a baseball bat for the last 6 months. They're not going to help each other out. They've got I'm all right, Jack. I'm going to survive. That's their attitude, Tam.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, Hearts were very, very hard done by. You know, there's several clubs who they're probably still very sore at, who stuck the knife into them when they were down and they needed a hand and they needed help and budge. You know, and they stuck the knife in. So there's no absolutely no chance that Hearts are going to go and help out clubs who voted against them and voted them down into the Championship. So yeah, I agree with that. Listen, it's a utopian world where we all want to help each other, but there's certain rifts in between clubs now that will take a long time to heal, maybe will never heal. So yeah, you know, we're wanting all the clubs to help each other, but as you said, it's not really going to happen. But I just fear, honestly, I really fear for League One, League Two. I mean, I don't even think the season's going to start, Peter. I don't think the season's going to start. But League One and League Two and the Lowland League, Highland League, I don't think it will start this season. And I don't know what will happen from then on. Did they freeze it? I don't know. The clubs, I don't know what's going to happen, but I really, really fear the worst for the lower community teams in different cities and towns in Scotland.
Charlie, I know you've played in certain friendlies. What's the word in Dundee? What's the feeling among your club about the Championship being able to start?
Well, I asked every other day, do you believe that we're actually going to start? They think there's going to be starting. I think that there's definitely not going to be any crowds in this season whatsoever. But it's the lower league clubs that are worried. You know, look at a club like Tam will know better for me, East Kilbride, who have all of a sudden had the cash injection, want to spend a bit of money to get in, paying their players. You know, they would have been paying the Kelty as well. They'd be paid the players a few quid each week. And all of a sudden they're at a position where, hold on a minute, are we actually going to start? And we've paid out some salaries already and we're not even going to start, we're not even going to get off the ground. So what did they do? Did they wait and hope that, say, for instance, an Albion Rovers go bust and say, oh, by the way, we'll take your position if that's available? Or another club go bust and we're ready to step in. We've got the funds, we could show you that we can get from now to the end of the season. It's going to be so much problems. We have to go and make a decision. If we're going to play, we play. If not, then we'll have to review it and so. But we as a club and as a group of players, we believe that we're going to get going and hopefully we can in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I hope so too. Nicky Twig says, Peter, it's the same old story. Looking after number one, forget the rest, let them sink. It's a disgrace and a shambles. And that's just my opinion, says Nicky. Nicky, there's a number of people who share your opinion on this. You know, that whole collective feeling of trying to save each other and do the best for each other is lost. I don't want to go back over the last 6 months because I could easily go into a darkened room, Roughie, and scalp my head off a wall because of all the skullduggery that's gone on. But right now, I think we're in a situation where the only thing missing on this show, Roughie, is, Bill Murray walking like Groundhog Day on this programme, because that's exactly what it is. It's a situation where we are going back into the same old problems that are coming up. I'm not saying the leagues are going to be called. I think they'll just try in the Premiership to play those games behind closed doors and hope that everybody gets beyond the new year and it changes as Nicola Sturgeon has suggested.
Yeah, I think that's why we're all hoping. You know, obviously the threat of 6 months is going to sink in to a lot of people. I'm really hoping it's not a 6 month. Nicola Sturgeon's coming out and saying it'll be reviewed every 3 weeks, but it'll only get reviewed to the good if people, start doing what she's telling them to do and the figures come down. So we've got 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, to get our act together. And let's be positive. I mean, everybody's talking about doom and gloom, and quite right. When somebody tells you there's not going to be fans in for 6 months, it is desperate. But I think we've got to be a wee bit kind of positive to say that we brought it down before. Let's bring it down again, and let's hope that we can bring it down again. And it's going to be a worry for a lot of clubs. But if, as I said at the beginning of the show there, if there's certain clubs who feel financially it would be unfair to go ahead and put their club out of business and maybe sit back for a season until it does all clear up, then I don't have a problem with that. I just think some clubs have to come to a decision what they're going to do. And it's the part-time clubs. I know there might be some of the full-time clubs struggle a wee bit, but I think the majority of the problem would be part-time when they've only got 300 or 400 coming into the ground. Obviously, their finances aren't a big layout, so it would be an easier decision for them, I think, to come back again. Whereas the bigger clubs that have got 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 supporters, it'd be easier for them once they come back in.
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is, Charlie, that Sky and the deal that they signed with the SPFL, providing those games can continue to play, they're propping up the league. It's as simple as that. In the Premiership, when you start going down to Championship, League One and League Two, as Roughie mentioned there, some clubs don't have a lot of people coming in through the door, but they have sponsors nights, they have sports nights, they have all sorts of fundraising, they have hospitality. It's almost as if there's 5 or 6 things that they do. Selling raffle tickets, you name it, they do it to get a collective pot, and then from that pot they survive hand to mouth each month.
Yeah, it's these community clubs, they do amazing work, and not everybody's got a millionaire owner, so they have to find ways of doing it, even if it's obviously the AstroTurf pitch where they rent it out every night and things like that. So it's a worry. It is a worry for these clubs, and there's not many Roy McGregors around, so let's say there's going to be a lot of talking and people. You worry about what's inside your own football club, and that's what will happen in Scotland. And we'll see who survives. Basically, that's how it'll be.
Yeah, just quickly, Charlie, before we hit the Europa League matches, you had a wee friendly yesterday. There's talk up in Dundee, Osman So coming in. I presume you are crying out for a goal scorer because you look as if you've got the midfield sorted out.
Yeah, we're working. We're getting there. No, it's nice to be, get a couple of games. That's me got a 60, 70 minutes and then a 65 last night. But Osman So's one that over the piece, done really well at Hearts, had a bad injury at Dundee United and went to China and was obviously come back training at Dundee United. And it's something that I think that the manager's looking at. I've only known that because I was reading the papers. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see him come in and train for a couple of weeks and see where he's at. And if he comes in and does well, then probably an opportunity to come into the team and try and score a few goals, because that's what all teams that want to get promoted, you need a goal scorer, and hopefully he would be able to provide that.
Okay, one other little bit of news that was breaking in the last hour, Tam. It's a statement that's come out from Rangers. We love a statement on this programme, to be honest with you.
We've not gone for a while, by the way.
Oh, exactly. I think we've gone 4 days without a statement. Rangers are being accused that a notice of complaint has been raised against Steven Gerrard for comments relating to the challenge which caused injury to Alfredo Morelos. It's a bizarre charge which we will robustly contest at the scheduled hearing. Given the wide range of incidents in Scottish football so far this season, we are perplexed that this issue has been raised and cited for complaint. Whilst our national sport faces an unprecedented crisis, it is baffling that resources are used to charge Rangers manager based on a flawed and inaccurate interpretation of Steven Gerrard's remarks. Rangers will fully support its manager against this charge during the scheduled hearing. Well, listen, I think Rangers are well within their rights to actually go and say, we're going to defend Steven Gerrard in this situation because he's been asked a question regarding the challenge on Morelos. But the first 3 paragraphs are a waste of time. I mean, just say Rangers are going to contest it. It doesn't matter whether it's a situation which is unprecedented. It doesn't matter, that they're perplexed by it. Who cares? Just appeal. Just say Rangers are not happy. We don't agree with it. We're going to appeal it. But the first 3 paragraphs are just gusto for Rangers fans. It's a lot of claptrap. If they feel is an unjust Roughie, just appeal it. You don't need a statement like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all changing now. Everybody's getting hit with this rule book, and I don't know how it sits and looks through the rule book to see who's offending what and what page it's on. But it is getting a bit ridiculous. But you're right. Rangers should just deal with it in the proper way, just go and defend it, and I would like to think they would win it as well. I didn't see anything aggressive in it at all. He came onto the park and had a word with the player, and he had a word. So no, I think we need to start growing up, and just it's a man's game, and as long as he's not behaving in an aggressive manner, then just get on with it.
Yeah, but listen, I thought it was a red card. Clearly the SPFL didn't think it was a red card, Tam McManus. Steven Gerrard's asked a question at the end of the game, about the challenge. He makes a comment. Fine, if the SFA suddenly think that's stepped over the line, then they serve more than a few people with a notice of complaint, whether we're in the middle of a pandemic or not.
Peter, I think it's nonsense. I think it's nonsense that Steven Gerrard's getting cited for this. And I agree the statement from Rangers has been padded out a little bit in terms of, pandering to their fans, and they love a statement. But I think that players and managers, and I've always felt this, Peter, that they should be allowed to speak their mind after a game. Somebody asks you a question in the press conference, you answer it. To truthful, to the best of your ability, you answer a question. If he felt, it was a red card, then he's more entitled to say that. And you shouldn't be getting put up with the SFA and cited for speaking your mind. So I think it's absolute nonsense. I think Rangers will win the appeal. And I agree that there's so much more resources that could be used rather than citing somebody for speaking their mind and giving their opinion. I think it's absolute nonsense. So I agree with Steven Gerrard and Rangers on this.
Yeah, but there are two issues here, Tam. I mean, some people who clearly will never change their minds on this are suggesting it's anti-Rangers, that it's us against everyone. It's not. We're dealing with an issue here, which is quite simply, he's made a comment, the SFA think he's overstepped the mark. My issue with it is just say, Charlie, we don't agree with it. You don't have to come out with a statement which suddenly starts giving you, let's take your mind off it and say it's there's a conspiracy against us. That's what that whole press release is all about.
Peter, I think it was an excellent statement. Rangers have worded it well. The club are in the right ways of making that statement. They're obviously going to back the manager, and let's be honest, there's more things to worry about than this what's going on. He's come out, made the comment that he never even said the lad should have been sent off. All he said was if it was on the other shoes and it was a Morelos tackle, would it have been a different scenario? He wasn't asking, for the lad to be crucified for it and anything. That's all he said was if it was on the Morelos on the other foot, Morelos, would the incident have been a different matter? And that's it. But we got people at different levels that are in a position where they want to try and use their power, and unfortunately, it's another case that probably doesn't need to be brought forward.
Yep, mountain out of a molehill. And if you remember rightly, Roughie, I did agree with Steven Gerrard on the situation, which was I thought if that had been Morelos, there would have been a different reaction to it at the time, because that was a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we're talking about something a couple of weeks ago, but I mentioned at the time that I thought, had that been Morelos, all hell would have been let loose for his challenge on it, and somehow Ryan Edwards gets away with it. But this whole press release for me is another smokescreen that just is a waste of time. I know Charlie's laughing because he's at the wind up, but the whole statement's just a nonsense, Roughie. But the manager's right. Had it been Morelos, I think it would have been a situation, that was different.
Yeah, well. I probably would agree with you on that one, but basically that's because Morelos has got a wee bit of a track record with the whole thing, on the ball, off the ball kind of thing. Yeah. So
but that's not the way the law works, Roughie. Everybody.
But you can't really presume then that if it had been Morelos, it'd have been an order and off either, can you? Because you don't know what kind of reaction the referee would have made.
We could have said that for other players that have got a so-called reputation in the game. Do you know what I mean? It could be, it could happen to anybody, and your reputation goes against you. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's like you said before. If it was in the other shoes, something happened. We don't know, but I thought it was an excellent statement from Rangers as a club.
Penalty to Rangers, probably.
Yeah, Charlie just says that because he knows there's grenades going off right, left, and centre on this screen in front of me here. Anyway, apart from anything else, it's all about opinions. We're not going to agree on everything. We're going to agree that we're going to talk about the Europa League. Riga against Celtic. Is it just a foregone conclusion? Well, here's a little insight on this match from our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi.
Celtic travel to Riga on Thursday evening as they aim to make the Europa League group stage for the third year in a row. Their hosts Riga FC were formed just 6 years ago, so relatively unknown in quality. They are managed by Oleg Kononov, a former Russian footballer who's managed all over Eastern Europe, and the game will be in the Skonto Stadium in Latvia's capital. They've had a short but successful history, winning the last 2 league titles as well as 1 Latvian Cup. They could make it 3 leagues in a row as they sit top of the table after 19 games, having won 17 of their last 19 matches. They were knocked out of the Champions League qualification by Maccabi Tel Aviv, but they did eliminate Tre Fiori of San Marino in the last round of the Europa. They've never lost at home in European competition before, something Neil Lennon and his team will be trying to change to earn a place in the playoff round.
So there you have it. Edouard has actually trained, looks good in training apparently, Tam, and he's ready to play.
That's great. I'm glad he's got over a wee bit of tiredness he had, obviously, and he's ready to go tomorrow night. I think that Celtic should go there and win the game comfortably. Listen, I don't think the Latvian league is up to much at all, and Celtic should be going there confident. It's like a nice big grass park. I've actually played on it in European competition for Derry City against Skonteriga. So it's a big pitch, nice surface, and Celtic should go there and handle them comfortably by a couple of goals, because I even think if it was Hibs or Aberdeen or Motherwell going over there to play them, I'd be confident of them beating them. So I don't see any issues whatsoever for Celtic.
Yeah, and the manager did mention, Roughie, that all this speculation about Christopher Ayer going as well, he said he's spoken to him, he's happy to stay at Celtic, he's happy there.
Well, that's obviously good news for the Celtic fans, that the player is coming out and saying that. We can now, any speculation we see or any figures we see, we can dismiss, for a couple of days anyway until the bid comes in.
Yeah, well, absolutely, Roughie. It saves me from trying to get Ryan Porteous out of Hibs.
Behave yourself, Peter. Typical Glasgow media try to stir it up before Hibs play Celtic. Try to get their top players. Shocking.
Porteous to Celtic.
Well, listen, Porteous for me is he's got the potential to be a really top player if he can avoid injury. Charlie, do you agree with that?
No chance. He ain't going to go to Celtic.
No? Where's he going?
I don't know.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Well, you try to say he's better than Celtic.
No, I just... ill discipline might cost him a big move.
No, Charlie, no way.
Listen, telling you.
Not a chance. Listen, he's not the first player to put the boot in and refuse to shake hands. My God almighty, I could rhyme off a million players who've actually had a right ding-dong battle in a game. And then you hold the hand out, they don't want to chat. He's 21.
I have nothing against no shaking hands. I have nothing against no shaking hands. If somebody was having a go at me, I wouldn't be shaking his hand after the game. That's the way football is. It's no
exactly.
There's no law you have to shake his hand. At the end of the day, it's just you do it if you feel you're gone. But if somebody's laying one on you and you think he's going over the top, no way will you be shaking hands with somebody.
I don't think the lad's got a reputation for being a hatchet man, though.
What? Have you seen some of his tackles?
Actually,
he's had one poor tackle on Barisic last season, but apart from that, Charlie, and I've seen a lot of Hibs games, I don't think he's by any means a hatchet man. I think he's had 8 fouls. Hibs put a stat out yesterday. 8 fouls in 7 games.
Oh, here we go. It's easy to back your players putting it like we say, talk about statements. Come on, let's get on with it.
He's not a hatchet man.
The good thing about it is, listen, that's the joy of this programme, because at the end of the day, I rate him. I think he's got potential. Charlie thinks there are certain elements of him that might not be, conducive to getting a big move. We wait and we see how he develops if he matures. That's the joy of football. We're all about opinions, by the way. But I don't know about you, Roughie, but I'll tell you, he's really starting to warm up to it now. He's started to get a couple of friendlies and he's got the studs on. He's kind of settled into the team.
Yeah, he certainly has. Just sorted Tam out there with stats.
Well, he hasn't. Exactly, but he hasn't.
Just giving you a start.
He hasn't sorted me out yet, Tam, because, apart from anything else, the great thing about this team is we'll not be there like Kenny McIntyre and all that team sitting around going, "Oh, Charlie, whatever you say is fantastic." We'll be putting the boot in shortly, Tam, I'm telling you. Anyway, apart from anything else, Celtic to win or lose, or are they... What's the situation here, Tam, for you?
4-0 to Celtic.
Charlie?
Yeah, comfortable for Celtic. It'll not be the 5 that I expected against Livingston, but it should be comfortable enough.
Roughie?
Yep, 3 or 4 nothing would be fine. If it isn't, it'll be an absolute fallout.
Okay, Hapoel Beersheva and Motherwell looking to try and build on that great win over Aberdeen and progress. The tie itself, Gabriel Antoniazzi, our reporters, had a wee look at the opposition.
The latest leg of Motherwell's European journey takes them to Israel and Hapoel Beersheva in the third round of Europa League qualifying in the Ha Moshava Stadium. Beersheva were formed in 1949 and are managed by retired Israeli midfielder Yossi Abukassis. The club usually play in the newly built Turner Stadium in Beersheba, but UEFA have dictated tonight's game will be in the neighbouring city of Petah Tikva. One of Israel's traditional clubs, they've won 5 league titles and 2 state cups, listing their most recent just back in June. In the league, they finished 4th last campaign, but they currently sit 9th, albeit after only 2 games this season. In their Europa League games, they overcame Dinamo Batumi of Georgia and Albanian side Laki. Scots may remember Beersheva winning 2-0 against Celtic at home 4 years ago, and as this is a one-legged affair, Motherwell cannot afford the same outcome on Thursday.
Yeah, and as far as the manager's concerned, Stephen Robinson has mentioned ahead of this game that if they could pull off a result, it would be tremendous for the club.
I think it would be an incredible achievement. It really would be. And where we, how we started the season, we didn't get the points accumulated. All of a sudden, we've had a little bit of a run of form. I think it'd be a great achievement, and I think we go there with absolutely nothing to lose. It's been pointed out we go there as underdogs, but I think some of our boys will revel in that and really relish this occasion.
Fancy them, Charlie?
I think this is another step up. Israelis will be they'll be good. They'll be at it. I just think they might just fall short. There was a great win up at Aberdeen at the weekend, but this is a different animal in the Europa League. It'll be a tough game, but I don't think it'll be as easy as Beersheva think it will be. But it will be a step up for Motherwell, and they might just get beat by the odd goal.
Yeah, Mark O'Hara was talking, and he is well aware of the fact that Motherwell go into this game certainly not as favourites.
Obviously, in the last couple of games, we've been probably the favourites, and it's been frustrating more than anything. I think teams have came and sat in. Well, Glentoran kind of sat in frustrated us. Then another night, it was comfortable, but it was a tough opening. But we'll be the underdogs going over there, and I think that might suit us in a way. Very much like Sunday, we went to Aberdeen probably as the underdogs, and we can just quietly go about our business.
Yeah, well, this is a case of Motherwell will certainly have to just maybe sit in and try and nick one, Tam. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, I think Beersheva are favourites. I'd love Motherwell to go over there and beat them. I really would. I think it'd be a fantastic result. Stephen Robinson said that. They're big underdogs. But if they can sit and defend properly, listen, they've got players that can hurt Beersheva on the counter attack. Alan Campbell's been sensational this season. Been very good. Tony Watt's back in the team, and by all accounts had a really good game at the weekend. So I think Motherwell have got the players to hurt them, and I hope they can go over there and win. But I agree with Charlie. I think they might just fall a wee bit short. I think Beersheva might be too strong. Maybe be the odd goal.
Yeah, Charlie, we've been looking at Celtic and Motherwell because obviously they are early kickoffs tomorrow. We will preview in greater detail Aberdeen and Rangers. But just talking about Rangers, Willem II is one hurdle. We could actually see Galatasaray as another hurdle. It's going to be a real test. But are you confident the way Rangers have played in Europe that they can get past this one?
Listen, they've got experiences away from home, good wins away from home. We'll expect Rangers probably to sit in and try and counter-attack a little bit. I could see them getting through this tie. And then obviously the next one will be the toughest test yet. But you can never rule Rangers out. I think the record since the manager's come in has been great. And you can never rule Rangers or Celtic out in a European match. They've got the quality. And I think they will get through tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about it, Roughie, the only thing that I think is the worry for the manager in games like this is Steven Gerrard's just watched in the last couple of games picking up little niggling injuries for his players, and they've managed to overcome them. As you get closer to that October 5th, he'll want to get past the next round but avoid any of his key players going out injured. He seems to have enough of quality available to him.
Yeah, I think he'll be monitoring every situation, every injury situation, and seeing, You know, it's when you hear, oh, he's going to be out for 6 weeks or he's going to be out for 8 weeks, that's going to be when he's going to assess, you know, can I wait 6 or 8 weeks for a particular player, or do I need to get somebody in? But like any manager, if the board say to him, look, we can afford to bring in another couple of players, he'll dive in there, you know, and take them. And that's just the way of the world just now.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget. I mean, I think, Tam, the one thing that we have to remember here, apart from the fact that they've got money at times, Celtic and Rangers, they're still open to the pain that everybody else is going through here. I mean, if you think of Celtic and Rangers' wage bill at the moment with no fans, yes, they've all paid this season ticket, but they're still paying.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. I mean, you look, it's particularly Celtic, their wage bill's astronomical. I think, obviously, when Brendan Rodgers came in, you know, he paid a lot of money out in transfer fees and wages. All the wages get bumped up. So they'll be feeling it. Rangers will be feeling a pinch as well. No supporters coming in. As you said, no hospitality. You know, no programmes, no pies, no ball rolls. All that stuff all counts. You know, 50,000 in the stadium, all buying stuff. So I think they are going to be feeling the pinch as much as anybody.
I think one thing about Celtic is that Peter Lawwell has steadied that club into a money-making machine, really, hasn't he? The sales that they've made, and they've got a big owner in Dermot Desmond, but, you know, Celtic are cash-rich in the bank, so financially it will hit them a little bit, but, you know, they've got the finances to sit there and go and still be able to sign players and pay the players the salaries that they can, so they will be okay. The Rangers one is a different situation. I know they're in a better position than they were a few years ago. But, you know, like Tam said, you know, that hospitality side of the game is massive for both clubs.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all develops over the next 2 or 3 weeks. But European football is certainly a bonus as you get past each qualifier. I think we're all tipping Rangers then to get through. Aberdeen, the last team in the equation, Roughie. We're talking about money that's badly needed. 3 million in the kitty for Scott McKenna is well received. Could go to 6 million depending on add-ons if he moves on again. I have to say, I have my doubts about certain aspects of him. I think there are weaknesses in Scott McKenna's game. I will bow to a number of people who've said, look, he's only 23, he can get better. It's a similar argument. I am right in Ryan Porteous' camp with McKenna. I've watched him in a number of big games and I see weaknesses that he'll have to iron out.
Yeah, I think I've still got to be convinced as well. I think he's a wonderful young player, but I can't shut my eyes and go, he won the game for Aberdeen, or he won the game for Scotland, or his defending was absolutely superb. So I think there's still a lot more to come for him, and being down in England might be the thing that brings him on. You know, obviously coming up, different kind of strikers. You know, he'll have to adapt to that, and it might be just add something to his game. So maybe we just have to hang on maybe a year or two to see the real McKenna. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not convinced at the moment.
Are you, Charlie?
Listen, he is 23. Maybe going and playing with better players will help him raise his game. But I think it's a big fair cry from when they got offered 7 million a couple of years ago from. I think they regret not taking that. I think it was Aston Villa that were in for him at the time. So, 3 million in this market is probably fair enough market, fair enough price. But yeah, like I say, I'm still a bit not sure about where he is and he's what like you say as a defender. Yeah,
absolutely. Tam, you might as well chuck your tuppence worth in. We've all had it. We've all had our opinion on centre halves.
I'm going to disagree with all three of you. I think he'll go down there and do very well. I think he'll be a success down there. He's big, he's strong, he's powerful. He's pretty quick on the turn. He's aggressive. And listen, I've not played Charlie, will be able to say it more than me in terms of English Championship, but I think there's a lot of big boys down there, big units. And I think he'll come up against physical battle, and he'll enjoy that, and I think he'll thrive on it. Yeah, and I think at 23,
I think if he's got better players round him, like you say, a Michael Dawson coaching him at the side of him, he'll become a better player without doubt. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He's going to he's a lot quicker than people think. That's only from speaking to people at the club, but he's had a few hamstring injuries in the last couple of years as well, which could be a worry for him. So, no, listen, I always want to see Scottish players go down there and do well. I hope he does, because it is good for us. And also, it means that the English clubs will come up and take our players down south for good money, and they know they're getting good market, they're getting good characters, good people. So, listen, I do think I would like to see him do well, but it's up to him now to go and prove everybody wrong.
Nottingham Forest will double their fee, Peter. Nottingham Forest will double their fee at least in 2 years.
Well, we'll be back here to see Tam. We'll just come back to you and mention to you whether they've doubled their money or not. And then, of course, as ever, even if Charlie kisses the badge and moves on, Roughie, we will phone him on Ryan Porteous as well, just to keep that argument going too. Ian Noble, who's a big Aberdeen fan, and we like Ian joining us on the programme, says 7 million for McKenna was only after he was going to them on loan for 6 months, and if they still wanted to buy him. There was never 7 million on the table. Well, Ian, I can recall at the time, and I know Steve Bruce has actually gone on record as saying, right at the death in the last minute, they offered 6 million, 7 million. But whether, as you say, the caveat to that was we'll take him on loan first, is open to debate. Listen, we wish the boy well. We hope he develops. He is 23. He's got 16 caps already. Maybe he will play, as Charlie said, with better players and just cut out some of the mistakes that I could see in his game, and I've seen in big games that worry me, to be perfectly honest with you. But we hope he does well and goes on to become even better. So he's gone. Aberdeen's this one. I was watching the game like this with my hand over my face, because it could be a tough one, regardless of the fact that Sporting Lisbon have a few people who've suffered from the COVID situation. Tam, I have my doubts. I really hope Aberdeen can get through.
Yeah, listen, it's a tough tie. There's no doubt about it. Sporting Lisbon are a massive club in European football, great pedigree. I'd love to see Aberdeen getting through, but again, I just think Sporting Lisbon will be too strong. I don't think Sporting Lisbon will hammer them. I think Aberdeen are very, very good going away from home in Europe and getting a result. And I think they'll do that again. They'll sit in. They can hit in the counter attack. They've certainly got players that can hurt Sporting, but by the odd goal, unfortunately, I think Aberdeen will go out. Okay,
I can't see them going through. Charlie, can you?
No, I can't. I think this is a very, very tough tie. Like I say, we all want Scottish clubs to get into the next round and get into these group stages because it helps our coefficient for the national team. But I just think Sporting will be too strong, and it'll be 2-0.
Yeah, Roughie?
Yeah, I think before Saturday's game there, I might have had a wee bit of confidence, but after that, obviously McKenna leaving, substituted their centre-half at half-time. Derek's got a lot of organising to do over there, but I think it'll be too late for him. I think this team have got quality, particularly up front, and I can't see them winning at all.
Yeah, Ian, who's I mentioned is an Aberdeen fan, says he's got no confidence. McGinn and Ojo just simply not good enough now in the Aberdeen team. Yeah, I liked him again. I thought he was a good player for Aberdeen. Second time around, maybe not as many starts as he would like. Maybe he's getting on a bit and can't make as much of an impression as he used to be able to make coming off the flank for Aberdeen. But Derek's going to be up against it. I'm interested to see what his back line is now that McKenna is gone. Looks as if Ash Taylor could be the guy that's coming in.
Ross McCrory, I think, will maybe step back into centre-back.
Well, Ross McCrory doesn't like to play centre-back, Tam. That's another thing. I think you're hampering I think the boy's best in midfield, whether it be holding or whatever. But that's my opinion on him. I held that opinion when they played him at Rangers at one point at centre-half. I thought he was absolutely going to be in the midfield area. Charlie, what do you think, McCrory?
Yeah, listen, what I've seen of him, I only seen him in a pre-season game for Portsmouth playing as a wing back, played a lot in there, but he might just have to go and play at centre back while they find out about getting somebody in. They've got enough in midfield, so you might have to play at centre back for a little bit and then wait for a new one to come in. But it's probably not his preferred position, but sometimes you've got to do something for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've got two teams going through, Celtic and Rangers. Our apologies to Aberdeen and Motherwell fans if they do go through. Magnificent. You can give us pelters on this programme on Friday morning, to be perfectly honest with you. Scott Gemmell's announced the under-21 squad. You can have a look at it here and see some of the key players. One of them is in for the first time, and that is, of course, West Ham defender Harrison Ashby. He's only 18 years of age. He's in the squad. Lewis Ferguson, McCrory that we talked about, David Turnbull's in there. Oh, look, there's a really good promising player that's in there from Hibernian. Ryan Porteous in that side as well. Wow. So that's fantastic. There's your squad. Tam, what do you make of it? To Czech Republic and San Marino.
Listen, a lot of talent in that squad. David Turnbull in there. As I said, Alan Campbell's been brilliant for Motherwell this season. Getting a lot of praise. Lewis Ferguson, Ross McCrory. So we've got a good backbone, of the side. Porteous in there. And listen, I've got a lot of hope. I think that we'll get 5 or 6 of them coming through and being capped at international level. I think there's a few just not far away at the minute. And Scott Gemmell's done well with under-21s. Hopefully he can get a couple of good results. But the most important thing, with Scotland under-21s is producing players for the full team. And if you can get 4 or 5, 6 out of that and into your full squad, then it's been a success.
No surprise, Roughie, that Motherwell are trying to get Alan Campbell on an extended deal. I think it ends in this summer. So they clearly want him to extend his deal the way David Turnbull did as well.
Yeah, I think they're identifying that he's a player that other clubs will be interested in. Get him on a contract. You don't have to worry about it when the bids come in, because certainly the bids will come in. I mean, I said it before, I couldn't believe it when I heard what age he was. I thought he was about 26. He looks as if he's about 26. But no, he's had a sensational year. And Motherwell have been fantastic in the last 2 or 3 years, looking after their players, getting them on contracts, making a few bob, and they're one of the successes in the league.
Yeah, apologies to Alan Campbell's wife or girlfriend. Now that Roughie is just yeah, I was just about to say, now that Roughie's just baseball batted him, the boy's doing well.
We've all had a put hard paper in, don't worry about
that. Charlie, I kid you not.
You were coming for me.
No.
You were coming for me, Peter. I knew you were.
I wasn't, because I looked at the only thing I was being kind to you, because when you mentioned the argument that we're having over Ryan Porteous, there was only about 6 million messages screaming out. And as they're going down, I thought, I can't read that out, So, no. I mean, listen, that's the joy of it all. He's. I remember when you had a full head of hair, by the way, at St Mirren on loan when you were just a young lad, and at Rangers as well. How the times have changed, but you haven't lost your foundations, your grassroots of where you were brought up. That's for certain. I think a lot of people up in Dundee are absolutely delighted to see you back there. Playing in the blue of Dundee, it's fantastic. To get to play for your boyhood heroes is absolutely brilliant. So a couple of things before that. Talking of Dundee, up at United, Logan Chalmers. I was impressed with him. I've watched him in a couple of games now, and I think there's a couple of Premiership clubs looking at him, Tam. I've got Crystal Palace and Southampton in there, and Birmingham in the Championship apparently have sent scouts up to watch him.
Brilliant, great for the boy. He's attracting interest. He must be playing well for Dundee United, and again, Dundee United have produced players, and they've moved them on for money. And as I said, that any money coming in will be welcome. I think Scott Banks went down to Crystal Palace, is doing well down there. So I think United obviously want to keep a hold of him, but if clubs are going to come in with big money, then it's every penny's welcome for Scottish clubs at the minute if they can sell anyone for £1 million or over, and it could keep their club going.
Couple of quick points before we finish, lads, and this one again is a kind of a blow that'll upset you, Charlie, but Kathleen Madden has said, is there any chance Roughie could wish me a happy birthday? And as ever on this programme, Roughie is the housewife's favourite. If there are any birthday requests, he usually has to do them. Roughie?
Yeah, I have to say, Kathleen, I hope you have a wonderful day and obviously a wonderful night as well. And I hope everything goes particularly well for you, and all the best.
Yeah, look at that. Honestly,
he's such a sleazy man.
He really is.
He's a soft old man.
if he could visit people just to chap their door and wish them happy birthdays, he would as well. He would. It's just bananas. Charlie, you'll be happy to know nobody will be asking you to do that sort of thing on the programme. This is all in Roughie's contract. Anybody who has a birthday, he has to wish them a happy birthday. So that's fantastic. A couple of things. Charlie, what about this? We always like to get a wee snippet from you on English football. I noticed Chelsea defender Thiago Silva was talking, and he said, I never really fancied playing in English football. Now I do. More technical, better players there. He's 36 when he eventually will make his debut in the next week or so. And he still thinks he's got what it takes. He's got the fitness and everything. He's one of those players, I think, absolute quality that can play towards 40. Do you think he'll be able to cut it there?
Yeah, it's a great signing from Chelsea. I thought it was him, a bit of experience in the back, in the middle there. That was one thing. They're missing that leader in defence, Chelsea. So it's a great signing from Lampard. You just need time to get fit. And obviously after that, Champions League and things like that. So, when he comes in, they'll be a different team. And, he's a quality player and will definitely make a difference to them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him because Chelsea, of the top 10 teams last season, were the one team that conceded the most amount of goals. So they definitely need that little bit of experience. I can remember another player coming in.
Great start, Peter.
Oh,
That's a great start.
Research is what
Did you
it's
get
all
that?
about.
Did you get that for Roughie?
No,
that's why I've got him in my fantasy team.
Oh, exactly. Have you got him in your fantasy team, Charlie?
Yeah, I've got him in. I think he's going to be big for Chelsea.
Well, fingers crossed he is. I like to throw those stats in every now and then.
That's it.
I just phoned Ryan Porteous and the two of us talk about great centre halves, and we were just exchanging stats and everything. It was brilliant, Tam. Tam, can you think of any other older players that hit the Premiership in Scotland or the Premier League in England? I think of Laurent Blanc. He was one. Frank Soze is another. Anybody else that springs to mind?
Oh, Hierro. Did the boy Hierro not go to Bolton? Remember him,
Bolton,
Fernando
yeah.
Hierro?
Yeah. That's a great
Spanish
shout,
centre-half.
Tam.
Yeah.
And Andy Millen.
Andy Millen played till he was 42. Andy Millen played at 42 in the Premier League in Scotland. Right. It was incredible. He still looks like a good player now.
I played in the same team. Unbelievable.
You played with him at St Mirren, didn't you?
I played with him at St Mirren. He was unbelievable.
That's
fit
right,
and fanatic. He was a great guy as well. Kenija, Frank de Boer, I think over the years we've produced some, the older ones have come in and done well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stanley Matthews.
Shut up. And another.
He played till he was 48.
No, he played till he was 50. He played for Stoke when he was 50 in the top flight. What a player he was. And Budgie, Ian Noble says, well, you know him, John Burridge. He played as well. And one other one that Roughie will know very well, who actually in the twilight of his career in 1976 signed for Celtic. He'd won League Cups with him, signed for Celtic in 1976 and won the double in 1 year of playing for Celtic. Do you remember his name, Roughie?
Will I go for Pat Stanton?
Yep, Pat Stanton in the twilight of his career.
Even if you look at Henrik Larsson going to Man United, what a difference he made to Man United when he went there at 35. It was phenomenal,
Yeah, absolutely. And Neil Gray's come up with a couple of belters. Well done, Neil. Jody Morris and Michael Duberry for St Johnstone. They were good players, Tam. Jody Morris is a good player. Duberry at the back, rock solid.
Aye, brilliant. That's two good shouts at St Johnstone. Two of them were excellent. Jody Morris was a class V player. Good player.
Yeah.
Played against him.
And the last one goes to Stuart Carruthers, who says Ibrahimovic for Manchester United. When everybody had written him off, I think he banged in 28 goals in that division when they thought he was too old to come to the Premier League. Listen, we love our football. Great, so many people who come on the programme actually mention to us all their knowledge as well, and we are absolutely delighted about that. Don't forget, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, hopefully you'll get to see our commercial, which is going out right across all the social media outlets. giving you the chance to join the football family. You can like, share and follow us. What we are doing over the course of this week, next week, all the way through to October, is we are picking out people who have liked, shared and followed on Facebook or subscribed on YouTube. We're picking out the names and we're sending you out some of our cracking t-shirts from our shop as well. So hopefully you can enjoy them. As we go on, fingers crossed, tomorrow, remember, Rangers game has been moved to an 8 o'clock kickoff. Celtic and Motherwell kick off early, 6 and 6:30, if my memory serves me correct. Aberdeen at around about 8 o'clock as well. Fingers crossed by the time we get through it all, Scottish clubs, more than just the two we've suggested, are into the next stage of these qualifiers. If you get a chance, join us tomorrow if you can. Thanks to Charlie, to Roughie, Tam McManus, and from myself, Peter Martin. Once again, thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.